with us this morning. We're so glad to have you. And I see we've got some members who've checked in as well today. We haven't seen you in a while, so thank you for being here, especially Len. I know you got classes that start at 8, but thank you for being with us this morning for a little while. And before we get into our program, let's have some announcements, and I'll have the first one. It is Dave Sauer's birthday. So let's wish Dave a happy birthday. His birthday was yesterday. So let's give a round of applause. We're not going to sing you happy birthday, but we're going to wish you very, very well. Are there member announcements that we need to hear? Go ahead, Kevin.
One of the guests asked if we were recording. I don't know if Lauren saw that. Are we recorded?
Yes.
Okay.
You should see a red dot up in your left-hand corner.
Oh, okay.
Good point. Other announcements? Go ahead.
Well, I'll talk a little bit about it just so that everybody, the guests, understand it a little bit. But our Seafair K project is one where we've done given out 10,000 computers in 20 years, fixed up and given out. And I asked him for help. I don't know. I'm still waiting. Kevin set us up with a company that is going to deliver us about 70 computers and a whole bunch of boxes of stuff. Hopefully Friday, but maybe next week. And I'm going to just shoot out an email when I hear from her of when they're going to deliver it. And if anybody can come over to help me unload them or to carry them down the steps, that'd be great. One. And two is we still need a co-chair of C4K. So I hope somebody will step up to help do that. And Oliver, we probably should get a hold of Joe to get a key back from the school, because they're going to want that when we say we want somebody else to get a key.
You are correct, Roger.
The second program is Imagination Library. And of course, most of you know what the Imagination Library is, but I don't know the date, but the state has budgeted $500 and some thousand to match our funds with the Imagination Library. What an unbelievable start for this program in the middle of COVID and what have you. And for any of you that's interested, that's going to be doing presentations, because we're going to present to about 15, 20 different groups. If you want to look at last night's Westminster Public Schools board meeting, Oliver presented the whole PowerPoint project program to them, and it was phenomenal. Go ahead, Mark, if you want to add something to that.
I just wanted to mention, along with Imagination Library, I did change the whole Dropbox configuration for that so that everybody that needs access has access to the entire folder and can see all of the other collateral materials besides the PowerPoint. And I sent out an email introducing that and providing links. Only Brian and Mark Clark have actually opened and looked at that email. So those of you that need access, version 9 is in there now. I understand I'll have some updated data to update the PowerPoint to version 10 probably today, but you won't have to receive a new link or anything because you have access to the folder. And if anybody has questions about that, please contact me and I'll make sure you have proper access.
So now this is the media thing where Facebook and everybody knows everything you do. Well, now Mark knows if we open up an email or not. But it and for the people, our budget, I mean, the first probably 15, 17 years have been with this Rotary Club, our budget was less than $18,000 for the year. In 2023, we have a very good chance that our budget for Imagination Library is going to be $1 million. That's one hell of a change in 5 years. So, but it's pretty exciting that this thing is really happening, and you know, Westminster, Mapleton, and 12 have all said yes to this program already. Lori, I think we need to find out if we can bill Adams 12 for this and what the next steps were with that. And I'll talk to you. Call me and we can talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so far we have Mapleton and Westminster School District with invoices going out.
Right. So
And the only other thing I'll add to that, Roger, at the state level, as part of their funding piece, they're funding for 2 years, but they're going to start an evaluation to see effectiveness of that. So that's going to be built into the process. So they'll be monitoring this and evaluating how well it's done. What was interesting, the state board is actually the authority that granted the funds. And what's really interesting about that group is they hardly ever vote unanimously on anything anymore. It's very partisan, but they did vote unanimously 7-0 on this past week. So that was pretty unusual.
So Oliver, does that start? When are they going to fund that? Are they going to wait until July of next year, or do they start now?
It's going to be next year. And I know when we were putting that PowerPoint together, you and I had the conversation, hey, if we could start earlier, let's try and get a jump start, because it's going to take some time just to build the membership up from the kids, especially with the COVID going on. So that their funds will come available to us next year.
Okay. So and I'm meeting with a representative from the state, from the governor's office on Friday. If anybody that's in part of the Imagination Library wants to be a part of that meeting, just to see what all that means and how they project that's going to just let me know, and I can send you the Zoom link.
Okay, thanks, Roger. And Brian, I know you had an announcement.
Yes, just a social update on 2 things we're working on, and I've sent some emails out this week. After last week's meeting, there was a thought that we might want to get together at Frolic Brewing for a brunch that they do on Sunday mornings. I since found out they do one on Saturdays too, the same thing. But anyway, we had no idea that it was going to be forecast, or at least I didn't, forecast for snow this Sunday. And this Sunday, the 25th, is the time we set from 10 to noon to gather at Frolic Brewing. So Oliver also suggested I might check and see with some of the new COVID restrictions if they're still able to have people gather. So we've got around 11 to 13 folks that said, depending on some circumstances, that said they'd like to go there. So I'm going to double check once they open around 11 today and see. There's a possibility we could switch it to the following Saturday. We can do the following Sunday too, but that's the day after Thanksgiving, where some folks are Halloween, and some folks may be out later that night. So we could do it on Saturday, actually Saturday morning of Halloween. We can move it to then, assuming that we might have better weather, but don't know. So more will come on that here today. And then the other one is we were trying to do Project Cure to go down and stuff some of their bags for with medical supplies for their project, and we were trying to do it in November because our own Dr. Tom Wilson has been very active in Project Cure, and he leaves town in December. So unfortunately, they didn't have, to my surprise, any dates available for us in November. So that is not working. The best alternative is December 5th. I've sent out an email for that, and it is from a 1 to 3 time slot. We could do our lunch before that, as we were thinking about from a social perspective, and then do that. So we've had some people reply to that. We've got around 7 to 8 folks that said they'd like to do that. Hopefully, if you didn't see the email, take a look at it based on this announcement and email me back and let me know if you have some interest. I know December 5th is the way out yet, but they apparently commit and fill up pretty quickly. They've got that date reserved for us. So let me know if you'd like to go down and help with that project. So that was it. Thanks.
Thank you, Brian. And Rick has an announcement for us.
Yeah, just remind everybody that we are doing donations for Growing Home Food Donation. And if you go to our website, there's one button you can push, and I think it's a $20 donation. If you'd like to donate more, Lauren says you can go, I think, above that, and there's just one that's, you just have to make your donation and then put in the reason, just say food donation.
Thank you, Rick. And I'm going to ask Lauren to bring up our polling, because we have traditionally gone dark on days around the holidays. And the question has come forward if we're going to be doing that again this year. And I think it's going to depend on what members decide. So if you can bring that poll up, Lauren, and explain what we need to do, that would be terrific.
Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. So the questions are, should we go dark on November 25th? Oh, okay. Just that fast. December 23rd and December 30th. And everyone is 100%. Okay, we've got a few that want to meet.
Are you able to share the results?
I'll give you just a moment. Yeah, they're changing as we speak. Just
So make your choices.
there. $64 of us are voting, 20 out of 31. We're a minute.
Got some guests who are probably abstaining.
We're a minute and 5 seconds, minute and 10 seconds in. I'll give you a little bit more time. Right now, yes, on the 25th for 60%. Yes, on the December 23rd, it's 70%. And yes, on December 30th, 70%.
Is that yes to go dark or yes to meet?
Yes to go dark.
Oh, I was hearing it the same way Martin was hearing it.
The first part of the question is yes, should we meet? Should we go dark? That's the first question. That's at 60% all the way down. Well, now it's 57, 71, and 71.
That sounds like the kind of language you see on a real ballot. Yes, we should not do this.
That's why I tried to make it that way, right? I mean, I don't want to confuse anybody.
Have the polls closed, Lauren?
Okay, at the close, ending the poll, we're at 57 no, not to go dark, 71 to go dark on the 23rd, and 71 to go dark on the 30th.
Okay, fair enough. So we're going dark in those 3 days, and Kevin has a question.
Go ahead, Kev.
So I have a question for my wonderful foundation board, which at the last meeting, they agreed to go ahead and hold the meeting after Thanksgiving.
That's the foundation board meeting, nothing to do with our meetings.
I know that, but what I want to say is, if everybody wants to go dark before Thanksgiving, do we still want to be live beforehand? So if my board would think about that and get back with me and see if we want to change from having a meeting the day after Thanksgiving, let me know.
Oh, I'm still for it, so that's one.
All right, well, we'll do that offline outside of this meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, are there any other, oh, here's the results. Okay. All right, thank you, Lauren. So we'll go dark for those 3 days. Are there any other announcements? I'm doing my good wait time here. Brian, do you have another announcement?
Yeah, I just, if I'm not mistaken, I want to send my very best wishes, and I'm sure the club does as well, to our great friend, Mark Harris. Mark, is it not today that you have your operation on your knee?
It was indeed scheduled today, but has now been postponed till December.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Let's go biking. Let's go biking.
Yes, that's true.
What's the date in December?
Currently the 9th, but I'm also on the cancel list, so it could be earlier.
Oh, all right.
Barbara, you had something.
Barbara.
I just, yes, I thought we should welcome Bill Fine back with his new look.
Yeah, I didn't recognize you,
Has
Bill.
new eyes.
Welcome back, Bill. Apparently, even as our poll goes, the ayes have it. And we know that of all the people here this morning, you probably have the best vision of anybody right now. So
Successful cataract surgery, yes.
so well done for getting through that. Okay, so let's get to our program. This morning we have Myke Rousell with us, and he is ready to talk with us. And I believe, Roger, you're going to introduce Michael, and in terms of the topic at hand this morning.
May I interrupt for just a second? We do have one other announcement to talk about the Club Reserve Fund. Would you like to do that after our program, or do you want to do it sometime in between?
Let's just do it after the program at this point, because I think it'll take a little bit of while, and I'll have Martin chime in on that as well.
Good. Okay.
So go ahead, Roger.
Okay, well, first of all, I got another guest. My great wife Shirley is with us this morning. So she slid in after the meeting started.
Thank you, Shirley, for being with us, and thank you so much for sharing Roger. And I know you have to sit on in this meeting so you can just see him for some part of the day.
So the other thing, and then I want to just add to the growing home, Sunday, Shirley and I went up to Miller Farm. Of course, that's the place where I get food for the food banks. And we went up to Miller Farm in the morning, and the guy that owns the farm said, well, why don't you come back at 3 o'clock? And I went back up at 3 o'clock, and he loaded my car up with vegetables. And then when he was done, he says, how much do you think this is worth? I said, how much do I owe you? He says, well, what do you think it's worth? And I said, well, or how much you want to give me or something? I said, well, how about 300? And he says, oh, hell, give me 200. So I give him 200. I pulled into growing home and had 870 pounds of grocery, of food, potatoes, carrots, and unbelievable. I mean, so I think I'm going to go back up peppers, and he's going to let me come up this Sunday to get probably 200 pumpkins for the kids in Southern Adams County to have for the kids that don't have pumpkins. So we probably will bring 2 pickup loads back this weekend when we go up. It's going to be cold doing that, so it'll be very interesting. So anyway, of course, I have a lot of problems understanding why the riots and everything going on in the country today. And when this happened, Bill and Kathleen Fine actually ignited the fire and said, hey, we should have something going on, have some kind of a program about help us understand where everybody comes from. And that's what brought about the next 4 programs we have coming up. And I think they're 4 unbelievable speakers. Really, we were going to come out of this. I'm planning on coming out with this 4 weeks from now with a different insight, different understanding of what really goes on in life. And so Myke actually, he was born in Louisiana, moved to Texas. But probably the greatest thing for Myke, he went to school in Kansas, so you know that he's got to be good. So anyway, went back to Texas. And, he pretty well introduced everything about yourself, Myke, and I'd like your presentation to tell us more about you than what I can say when we introduce. So, Myke, the program is yours.
Thanks, Roger. I really appreciate you reaching out and setting this up. And I really appreciate all of you guys taking the time to listen to me. Essentially a complete stranger, but I get some of your trust because I'm a Rotarian, right? But having this platform to share my, perspective and my personal experiences, I feel like is really unique. And it's a lot different speaking to people that you don't know, that you don't see every week. I started off speaking to my little club with 20 people in it, and now I'm here. Most people know me as this, fun, easygoing guy that'd rather get a laugh out of people. But, talking to you guys today about something so serious, it's taken a toll on me, reliving certain moments of my life. And it's a fraction of it, but I lost a lot of sleep trying to plan this talk with you and trying to figure out how I was going to effectively and constructively get my message across. And so with that being said, during this time, I respectfully ask you to listen. Listen without the intent to defend anything I'm telling you. It's reality, and the time for change is now. There's no more excuses, no more justifications. I am an educated Black professional with a great career at a great firm. I've worked extremely hard to earn the respect of those who know me at work and in my community. So by anyone's standard, I am successful. So how do the senseless killings of people, the civil discourse surrounding race, and hearing those with the largest of platforms downplay and or flat out deny that racism and racial bias exist? Well, it upsets me. It saddens me, not only as an empathetic human, but also because they're needless and painful reminders of the indignities that I face daily. When I'm with people who know me, I'm a respected dad, colleague, board member, friend, volunteer, etc. But once outside of those isolated bubbles, I'm just an anonymous Black man subject to diminished respect and trust, and it's exhausting. And if you think it's exhausting for me, the successful Black man, how do you think Black communities feel in general? There's this misconception that racism is a redneck in a jacked up truck waving a Confederate flag, but it's much deeper than that. Racism is being laughed at by a group of white people and act sarcastically if you're the janitor when you tell them that you work at a public accounting firm. Racism is being told by white people that the officer is just doing their job. If you just do what they say, you'll be fine. Well, I can tell you, I've been pulled over 20 some odd times, always doing what I'm told. But am I fine? Being frisked and having your vehicle searched right in front of your house and begging the four police officers for one 17-year-old to just let him go inside and get a guardian. Coming inside feeling dehumanized, scared for your life, alone. I mean, would you be fine? Physically, yeah, sure, I'm okay. But am I fine? Racism is when you finally listen to what you've been taught and say no to a vehicle search, and you're forced to spend an hour alongside the road, humiliated, while people watch your vehicle get searched by a dog, knowing, even if you're innocent, you're presumed to be guilty by those looking on. Racism is my mom telling me she named me Michael because she didn't think Jamal on a resume would land me a good job. Her telling me she wanted to spell it with a Y, but no, that might look bad also. So she compromised with the world and just nicknamed me Mike with a Y. I continue to be reminded that racism is alive and well, with no Black child exempt from the hate and discrimination. Age, home life, parent involvement, light skin or dark skin tone, none of that matters. The world around me has taught me that racism is not always loud and it's not always clear, but it's always dangerous and it's always damaging. Racism is not being able to meet one of your son's first grade teachers. Racism is not being able to meet one of your son's first grade teachers and meet the teacher night because the teacher was so visibly disgusted and couldn't even be bothered to make eye contact with me. I waited and waited only to realize no matter where I stood or what I said, my son's new teacher was not interested in speaking to me. Racism is having to write a letter to the counselor, vice principal, principal, and superintendent of Belton ISD to get my 6-year-old son's classroom changed in the middle of the year because he was getting treated so poorly based off the color of his skin. Now you might ask, how do you know? I mean, which is one of the reasons racism thrives. I asked to have my son moved because of the effect she was having on my child. I asked for my son to be moved due to the hateful things said to him by someone that I entrusted his care to. My son could not understand why his teacher constantly ignored his raised hand or continually told him he was a bad kid. Or he would come home each day with an idea, and even after all of this, he would come home each day with an idea of how he can make this teacher like him. One time he came home and was like, she really likes tea in the morning. We should buy her a new teacup. My son loves to learn. He loves going to school and loves pleasing people. So I would never stand by and watch someone steal the shine from his smile and make him believe that he wasn't worthy. One of the reasons I say that racism thrives is because of the shame a Black parent is made to feel when questioning why their child is being treated differently. Involved, dedicated parents should not fear retaliation when questioning the care and education of their children. Racism thrives because I didn't want to mention this being about race. I mean, honestly, I didn't want to believe it. But it also thrives because it's not always said or made clear why hate is being spewed towards a person. being a Black person talking to an all-white administration and an all-white community, the last thing you want to do is mention race, because any credibility that you may have had could quickly go out of the window. Anyway, I want to end this quick story by letting you all know that when in the meeting to have my son's classroom moved, the principal, she was the one who flat out asked me, she said, "Do you feel like these issues are racially charged?" I painfully admitted, and I said, "I think so, due to my observations in the class and the stories my son brings home involving white students and other detailed examples." She looked at the counselor and solemnly said, "Yeah, this isn't the first time. So that is how I know." There's a very prevalent issue here, and I want to acknowledge it now. White privilege. I know. It's frowned upon for anyone, especially me as a Black man, to speak on it or even mention its existence. But white privilege, much like racism, isn't always tangible. And just like racism, the burden of proof has been put on Black people, and it's exhausting. It's frustrating. White privilege isn't me as a Black person saying you didn't work hard for what you have or you didn't pull yourself up by your bootstraps. It's just acknowledging the fact that your skin color or your name or any other stereotype was not a barrier to your success or a source of struggle. I don't know if this is a scientific term or not, and you probably won't find it on Google because I think I made it up. I don't know, but I call it white avoidance. White avoidance is being asked, what did you do to make them want to search your car? So I kept my gym bag in the trunk just to ease everyone's fear of me. White avoidance is being told it's because of the way I dressed or because I have dreads. So guess what? I saved up what I could and bought new clothes and I cut my hair. White avoidance is being told it's because I live off of welfare or live in a certain part of town. So guess what? I went off to college. I got a respected job. White avoidance is not acknowledging the fact that I had to work 4 times harder than my white peers just to be at par level. And after doing all that I thought I could do to conform, to adjust, I still struggle with being accepted as a professional when I'm outside of my work confines or not wearing a $500 suit. White avoidance is the reason white privilege continues to thrive. Now, with all of my personal experiences and this stigma stacked against me, I've never met a white person that thought, well, here comes another racist. Everyone I meet has a clean slate. I never talk to someone with the thought process of this person is scary. I never avoid a person because of an interaction I've had with a different person. I've never been disrespectful or short to police officers questioning why they pulled me over or leading with, it's because I'm Black. I don't group people together based off someone else's narrative or characteristics of those who have previously wronged me. With all that I've been through, I still manage to give each person I encounter a smile and a chance. All people are asking for, all Black people are asking for, all I am asking for is a clean slate and a fair chance. A chance to be heard and seen for who I am on the inside. Hear my story before you determine if I am a bad person or if I am good. After just some short time, you'll realize and you'll quickly find out that a lot of people pride themselves on being the latter. There are things that will happen that won't go viral or be viewed as extreme enough to cause an uproar. Landon, you won't get a hashtag for feeling less than. I won't get a hashtag for being humiliated. A life won't always be lost, physically anyway. However, these blatant inequalities are what all the fuss is about. Sam Cooke sung a song, "A Change Is Gonna Come," 50 some odd years ago. Why has a song about racial discrimination lasted the test of time for so long? Why are we here today begging for something as simple to be treated as equals, to be perceived as equals, to not be up against a stereotype, to not be murdered? There are some that think this is about politics. There are some that think this is about one bad cop. Some think this is about a flag or a group of people looking for a handout. That can't be further from the truth. I've worked for everything that I have, and I love with everything that I have. So hear me, your friend, your fellow Rotarian. Let's turn off the news, leave Fox and CNN alone for a day. Let's not get our perspective from sources known for their bias. Let's walk into these communities that we don't understand. Let's talk to our colleagues, people we break bread with, people we call brother and sister. Hear their stories. Now, the glaring question that most of my friends have had, what can I do to help? Everyone here today, in some form or fashion, has influence, has a platform to be heard. I'm asking you to use that influence to help give Black lives a voice. If you have 3 friends willing to listen and respect your thoughts, you are more valuable than you know. Help us combat those that are insistent that things are good the way that they are, or that are the way that they were. Things are not okay, and change is needed. Things may be okay for you or people around you, but I can assure you things are not okay for everyone. Help by holding people accountable for their actions. Help right be right, no matter if you're on the left or the right. Help Black kids not only have a future, but be able to believe they're capable of great things, no different than the kid standing next to them. I worked in all types of organizations, and the tone at the top is the key to how that organization is ran. Looking at America as one big giant corporation, it's those in power jobs to make sure inclusion and equality is the only acceptable standard, to set the tone at the top. It's not our job to change all of America. I understand that. But it is our responsibility to play our part, affect those that are around us, build up and encourage our community. It starts individually. It starts with you. It starts with us teaching our kids and our grandkids to accept others for their differences, even if they don't understand. I don't know where each of you are on your journey, but I challenge you to listen and learn with an open heart and an open mind. Give your input. Uncomfortable communication is the only way forward. Now, some eye-opening sources that I urge you to view and share are Jane Elliott's The Blue Eye and Brown Eye Experiment, the book White Like Me by Tim Wise, and also, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to after doing these talks, I've accumulated a list of the most impactful sources for people to kind of educate themselves on their own bubble before they even branch out to do anything further. Again, it starts with you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this list and put it in the chat box for everyone, and then maybe after the meeting, the host can share it. And also in there is my email for anyone that wants to kind of further this discussion or have questions that they don't want to ask me today. That's fine also. But all of this is fine, but I really feel like if you do nothing else, probably the most impactful thing you can do is to reach out to some of your Black friends. Check in on them. Don't assume that they know you're supportive. Ask your friends how they are feeling, what they think. Express your interest in hearing about their personal experiences. Show them you care, even if you think that they're fine. Initiate that line of communication. I've learned that I have some people support, even if they didn't explicitly say it at first. To me, personally, hearing those close to me say that they care or are empathetic has been huge. And I want you to give your friends this opportunity to express themselves without this feeling that they are going to cause some kind of unrest or lose some of the people they hold dearest. Now, the other glaring question I've been getting is, what can Rotary do? I've had some time to reflect on this, and from conversations I've had, I think we all can agree that there's a need for Rotary clubs to reflect their communities. So how do we encourage those in the community, in these different communities, to join Rotary? I think we start by first creating a common goal. What can Rotary add to their priority list that will capture a more diverse audience in their local community? For me, the biggest dilemma is, how do I get the different communities to be in the same room? How do we end this segregation that is still so prevalent? I mean, our public facilities, parks, even our churches. Let's be honest, we serve the same, a lot of us serve the same God and still can't find a way to worship together. I feel like everything will work itself out if we can just gather together and realize we're on the same page. To me, Rotary is one of the biggest ways to bridge this gap. All of us together working towards a common goal of improving our communities. The same way we came together to try to eradicate polio, let's come together to try to eradicate racism. What I challenge our Rotary clubs to do is to consciously expand the diversity of our clubs. Reach out to people around you at work, at church, at your children's school. Actively recruit those who may not have any idea what our Rotary family is about. With recent events, there's a surge of people wanting to do good, want to make a difference. Don't let those people search for an outlet. Don't let that fire that's been sparking so many fade out. Be the force that attracts them to bring their drive and that passion to our club. Let's not wait any longer to bring people in. Let's go get them. We cannot let this momentum die. I never thought I'll be here talking about my experiences so openly, talking about race. Honestly, why? Oh, why should, I mean, we should not be afraid to speak up, and we should not allow this fear surrounding racial dialogue to continue. My story, it made me, speaking and over the course of time, it made me think my speech is most effective and most powerful and most impactful for those that know me personally. Hearing about my experience such as mine will have the most impact coming from my own community and someone who sits next to me at work. I would love to see a Myke from every community come forward and share their story. My story is not unique. My story is more common than most people would like to admit. To tell my story was terrifying, but the response has been worth it. I feel heard. I feel like I'm making a difference, and I feel like people do care. I encourage everyone to keep this conversation going. I encourage anyone with a story to speak up. You'll be surprised the impact and influence that you may have. As Rotary evolves, let us say with joy in our hearts, we were part of that evolution. Let us support the Sylvia Whitlocks of the world. Let Rotary set the tone at the top. If you take anything from my talk here today, I hope you remember that together we can help in a major way. It's no longer good enough for us to be not racist. We need to do more. We need to be actively anti-racist. Don't turn your head the other way. Do fight for accountability. Help us get to a point where if a teacher is repeatedly written up for racial discrimination, that we don't get mad at the parents for bringing the bias to light, but instead at the teacher for hurting a child, for hurting the future. Now, everyone knows I'm a CPA and I'm a numbers guy. And so this statistic, you're not going to find it anywhere. It is just how I logically think through things and my perception of the world as I see it now. And after driving this discussion for a little while. So I feel like there's 5% of us way to the left, and they are screaming and they are loud. They're usually the loudest people in the room. They're gonna have flags and bumper stickers and everything else. And this is what media is sprouting at us. And this is the narrative that media is telling us. Then there's 5% way on the right, loud, bumper stickers and hollering, hooping and hollering. And these are the two things people think they have to choose from, the two extremes. However, I feel like there's 90% of us. 90% of us are common sense people, good people, want to see everybody get along, want the school systems to be inclusive, want the world to be inclusive. And I feel like 90% of us, though, we're these peacekeepers. We don't really want to go against the 5%. But once we realize that it's 90% of us and we can just tell the 10% to shut up, and this is how we're going to run our world, we can no longer be peacekeepers, but we can be peacemakers. And that is my challenge for everyone here, is to not to be afraid to have that dialogue with the people closest to them, because it's only you that is going to be able to get through to those that are closest to you. Thank you for your time.
Myke, thank you so much for your thoughts and sharing your struggles and speaking to us about white avoidance. So that's definitely a new term for me. And thanks for just bringing the conversation and putting it right on the table. I think for me, when I think of Rotary and think of this conversation, I think of the four-way test. And as Rotarians, if we're truly living the four-way test, we should be addressing this issue in our daily interactions as we encounter it, because to remain silent is remaining complicit. So I'm going to open it up for questions from members for Myke. So who's got a question? Tom. Tom, you're muted.
I'll fix that. As a lifetime educator, I see how being complicit in dealing with people of color and the issues that Myke brought up has been pervasive, at least for the 40 years I've been around education. And I applaud Myke for bringing the issue forward and wondering exactly what we could commit to as a club to address this in our own daily lives and in our club lives. So I thank Myke for bringing that to us, and certainly has put me in a introspective place.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Questions? Comments, Lori?
Thanks, Myke. That was very rewarding conversation. So I too am a lifelong educator. And I think also we need to put out there, not just Black people, but in our part of the world, our Hispanic population also is a lot of times treated with discrimination. And we need to keep that mindful also. And I think one of the things that I've noticed as we've gone down this road of thinking about racism is I call it unintentional racism. The things that we do not meaning to be racist, but that come across as racist. And I'll just give one example because I had a conversation with somebody about it. Just using the term melting pot can be seen as racist. Because people immigrated to the United States and were expected to absorb into the American culture, but we as America are not one culture, and we lose sight of that. So that's just my 2 cents worth, and thanks, Myke, for all your insights too.
All right. Appreciate you.
Kevin, go ahead.
Myke, that was awesome. But one thing I want to know that how we can help, and I hope I'm not insulting anybody when I say this, but there's so many different stereotypes that are out there, and it seems like society will pull to certain stereotypes that are I don't know, basically wrong. And how do we help to, I know, the media has a play in it, the movies, music. How do we as common people help to get rid of some of these stereotypes so that they understand that there's people such as yourself? You're just, to me, I just see you as a professional person that works in a business, and you're a Rotarian. How do we get so that that's what everybody thinks about and not those stereotypes? How do we help?
Well, so here, how can I put this? We live in a white world, right? And especially in the professional realm, where a lot of you are probably derived from, you don't see a lot of colleagues and et cetera that are African American in usually when I'm at a CPA conference, it's like 2 of us, okay? There's like 5%, I think, African American CPAs. And I feel like the reason for that is because it's a cycle, and to get African Americans in the pipeline, you have to do certain things at a very young age. My parents, I don't even know my father, so I didn't have a dad that owned a little side business that I helped him there, and then I thought maybe I could help my dad in the business, so I could go into business administration. Or I didn't have dad knowing a friend that said, hey, get my daughter an internship. I didn't have those type of connections because, and those connections don't exist very much. And so when I say you have to put yourself in a situation, you have to be uncomfortable for progress. Black people are uncomfortable all the time. We have to adjust in a room full of white people, and people are comfortable. I would encourage you and I would challenge you to, in our Rotary clubs, to have these joint socials, because I know there's Black organizations right there in your community that do things and so on and so forth. And when they do their socials, guess what? Probably majority Black people. What if Rotaries challenge themselves and say, hey, I heard you guys are having this social. 10 people from our clubs, we're going to come support this social, get to know you guys, get to know this community a little bit better. And guess what? Bet you some people from that social ends up joining Rotary because of it. And I feel like if we can get people in the same room, and it's going to take somebody taking the courage to go to the other side and put themselves out there and just say, hey, here I am, man. I just want to know what you guys are doing and see what this is all about. And slow roll it. I'm not asking you to change who you are. I'm not asking to change morals. I'm not asking you to support this candidate or this candidate. Listen, guys, I am not a politician. I am a father. And that is where I come from. Okay. I want to make a better world for my kids. And that's it. I just want to make sure that when I'm coming across and I'm speaking to you, this is not a pitch. It's my message of hope. And the more I speak to people and the more I communicate about this and drive this discussion, the more my heart grows hopeful. And I feel like it is bettering me and making me a better father and so on and so forth. I didn't realize I was holding on to so much trauma until I started releasing it upon you all. I got to be honest. And now I feel like counseling is a big thing. If we can even just get counseling in our African-American communities, how many people will have this weight lifted off them, this trauma that's been embedded for generation and generation and generation. Okay, now I'm rambling. Let's keep asking questions. Sorry, Kevin.
No, that's quite all right. It's a conversation that could go on for days probably, but we definitely have got to get a new beginning and make some changes.
Yeah, but my goal is to change my family tree, and that's why I endured racism all the way through. That's why I worked through here and tried to fight every obstacle that was thrown my way. You guys got to understand, I'm a very resilient person, and so it's a lot of times where I can think that I could have just given up and stayed the course, but I was determined to change my personal family tree. So,
thank you for being here.
We've got about time for maybe one more question. Who would like to ask Myke another question?
Gary.
Myke, well, first of all, thanks so much for doing the program this morning, and I hope you join us the next 3 weeks if possible so we can ask more questions. But one is, and of course this is dumbness on me, but my understanding that I, as a white American, as Black Lives Matter, is a corporation that sends people into a city to burn down our buildings. But you mentioned Black Lives Matter. Can you explain that just a little bit and how we could change what I'm totally wrong about?
Sure. One, I didn't mention Black Lives Matter. Specifically, I did.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No worries. I'm glad you brought this up. That's great, Roger. I specifically didn't mention Black Lives Matter because as soon as I say Black Lives Matter, you think about a corporation. But you got to understand, to us, Black Lives Matter. It's a statement. It's not a corporate. I know nothing about this corporation that people speak of. And so when I tell you that Black Lives Matter, it's not a matter of me supporting rioting or supporting defunding police. No, I'm just simply telling you that I would love for me and my son and my daughters for their lives to be valued. And so it is a statement. It is not, and I want to make sure that you understand when you're talking to someone, especially a person of color, especially a Black person, and you hear them mention, post a picture or of their family and say Black Lives Matter. This is not telling you that they are, what's it called? And I don't even know what it's called.
Antifa.
this is not them telling you that they're Antifa supporters. This is telling you that they support their family and they want to see better for their family in the future. Does that make sense, Roger?
You bet. Thank you.
And if I may, because we just recently did a talk on this on another program, and just to really support what Myke is saying, people get Black Lives Matter mixed up with the corporation. And one of the things that I have told others is that make sure you understand what you're really talking about. Myke and I both are on the same page, is that, not only do our lives matter, but our children's lives matter too. And that disparity between the races and the color comes because of what other people see in the media, what other people assume, and the stereotypes that come behind it, and thinking that we all are a part of the corporation, the group, the organization. And to be totally honest with you, the majority of us who have our heads on straight, we don't want to have anything to do with that organization because we do not believe in a lot of things that are going on with that. And then to even build even more to that, you have to also look at who is really doing a lot of this destruction, who is really behind a lot of the rioting and the negative things that take place when people are really out there just trying to protest and let their voices be heard in a peaceful manner. I'm one that will stand on, Martin Luther King's philosophies, and even later on, Malcolm X's, when he started getting a realization that this is about our voice being heard. It's not about a corporation.
Yeah. So I will say this also. Just while I have the moment. I don't get a black check. Okay. So I don't get any compensation. No, it does me no justice and put my name on BLM, the corporation. That doesn't help the cause. All it does is really takes us 2 steps backwards. But I also feel like the media is stopping progress because they're using this as a justification on why I need to ignore the real problem because I am so hell-bent on this deal. What's happening in your backyard? In Temple, we had protests. Temple, Texas, small town USA. They've had Confederate flag protests. We've had Black Lives Matter protests. They call it social justice protests. We've had all of that, and it's been peaceful. There hasn't been any rioting. Everyone is kind of coming together. And so I want to ask you, what's happening in your backyard? You are not Chicago. When I talked to someone, it was like, what about the killers in Chicago? What about black on black crime? I'm like, okay, listen, guys. There's no such thing as black on black crime. It's crime, okay? It's crime. You're more likely to commit crime for the people that are around you than anything else. If we're talking statistics, 80% of white people are killed by white people. 80% of black people are killed by black people. It's just crime, okay? And those people are criminals, but it doesn't have a reflection on me or my family. And I still can't understand why young black men are so feared in America. It's sad. Again, I was pulled over so many times, 20 plus times throughout, and I'm only 33, And so that's an average on me getting pulled over, likelihood of me getting pulled over once a year when I start driving. Once or twice a year when I start driving. It's sad. And I guarantee you, if you talk to any person of color that you meet, they'll have a story for you of racism. And if after talking to all these people, you still don't think it exists, or you still think that people are overreacting, that we just live in a great America, then at that point, it's nothing I can tell you, because you've heard from people that you know personally, and there's nothing I can tell you to convince you otherwise. And so the media is really just preaching to the choir at that point. So I just encourage people to again, listen and learn with an open heart and an open mind.
Myke, thank you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Oliver?
You've certainly given us plenty to think about.
Hey, Gary's been trying to get a question in. Would you allow him to get a question really quick?
Go ahead, Gary.
Well, it's actually not a question. I've looked at this really seriously over the last few years, and I keep noticing that all of the poorly educated people are generally in the inner cities, and the school system is the starting point where we can do something effective by going in and studying which of the schools across the nation are failing to educate these Black kids primarily, and Spanish, and take over those school districts and start putting some decent schools in place for these kids. We have to take over the educators who are failing all of these kids so terribly, and they're doing it on purpose. They have a need to have those kids not be smart, not be educated, and they are smart kids. I've coached kids for 40 years, and I've met a lot of mean ones, but I've never met a stupid one, and that includes the Black ones. So we have a opportunity to do something and affect this problem, and it's got to start with the inner city schools and get these kids an education.
Well, this is a complicated situation because it is systemic. Schools are microcosms of the society they're in. And there are people who are racist in all institutions. And schools can do more. Rotary can do more. I think everybody can do more. And I think that's what Michael's conversation is going to spark for us today is how do we do more with those just simply around us? I think is really what he's asking us to think about. How do we affect our own circle of influence with people that are closest to us? Because it's always easy to point to somebody else as the problem. First, we need to look inward and see what part of the problem am I? What part am I contributing to this? What part am I helping to stop, if any? And if I'm not speaking up when I feel injustice happening, then I'm part of the problem, not part of the solution. So, Myke, I want to thank you for bringing this to us. It's the first of a series of 4 speakers that we're going to have on this topic. And I'm going to encourage our members after the 4 weeks of listening to the struggles that people are truly experiencing, what is it as a club that we can do to help improve our own local area here so we're not seeing the systemic nature of this just continuing to in our society. We need to figure a way to turn that around. So, Myke, on behalf of the club this morning, I want to acknowledge your work by presenting you with the certificate that you get in the mail. We're also going to make a presentation on behalf of the club to Polio Plus, acknowledging your thoughts and your work with us here this morning. And folks, let's give Myke a round of applause. This was a difficult thing for him to talk about today.
Thank you. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, Myke. And you'll appreciate what's next on our agenda. It's actually our Sergeant of Arms. So maybe we'll get some tips from Dr. Tom Wilson, who's going to find us all this morning, I'm sure.
I thought I was next week.
Actually, you're right. It's Rick Fuller. Sorry, Tom.
And Lauren.
Yeah, I have a little housekeeping thing. I just found out that Excel is going to be changing out a transformer that serves north of 113th Avenue, and that includes us and this connection. So if we lose you at 8:30, it's because of that. That said they'd be out from 8:30 to 2:30 today. So if we all go dark, at 8:30, we'll see you next week. So keep it moving.
We should vote on going dark.
Yeah.
Roll on the
Oh,
ice.
let me put together. I'll
Yes, we
Roll
should
the
not
items
meet.
we have to next week if we don't get them done today. So, Rick, go ahead. Fine us.
Okay, so the first fine is going to be for Lauren for interrupting the sergeant.
Yeah, I agree. Okay,
And also
you're going
Martin.
to get yours. Yeah.
Yeah, Martin, for encouraging it. Start of the meeting fine. Seem to have a little problem. I'm not going to find Lauren, but I'm going to go to the top and find Oliver for not appropriately starting the meeting. Also, give Oliver the Dr. Fauci Award for his brilliant article on COVID in the President's Corner. Tom, you scared my wife when you mentioned snakes. Building a house where snakes, she was deathly afraid of snakes. And she started crying, so that's $1. Martin, 2 fines for you. One, you're starting to rock that 60s look.
Yeah.
And also, you changed your background. It's actually a nice background now, colorful, so we appreciate that. Roger, you finally introduced Shirley, but it was late. And I had already written down that you didn't introduce her, so that's a fine even if you did. We have the Happy Feet fines for Ed, Sharon, and Kevin. You know, if you're going to leave, at least go blank on your screen. I mean, you're just running around all the time. It's a little bit unnerving. For Mark Clark, Mark Harris, Dr. Tom, and Rich, no background. We've always looked forward to the backgrounds, and you didn't show one today. And Matt, for having a nice background, that'll be $1.
Hey, Rick.
Don't interrupt the sergeant.
But why would you want background when you got this beautiful place to look at?
Okay, that'll be $2. Okay, Brian Hall, just thank you for being Rotarian of the Week. That'll be $1. And thank you for doing a second program, and that'll be $1. Bill and Kathy, for some reason, I wrote down my sergeant stuff yesterday, and I had looking back next to your names, and I have no idea why I did that. So for confusing the sergeant, that'll be $1. Lauren, you get the Dick Tracy Amateur Detective Award for your wonderful article in the award-winning Ineluctable newsletter. I know we're kind of running short on time, so these are just going to be general fines unless somebody in the club knows the answer to these. So anybody can answer. How many Rotary clubs are there in District 5450?
61.
Martin, close? 60. So that will be $1. What is, October is what Rotary month? What is the theme of October?
Halloween.
Okay, for a stupid guess, Kevin, that'll be $1.
Can't fix stupid.
Community Development Month.
Yes, Roger got that.
Ah.
Wow.
He read the newsletter.
Okay.
No, I looked on my spreadsheet.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, 2 kind of blanket fines. If you are not a Rotary Westminster 710 Club Fellow, that'll be $1. And if you're not wearing shorts to work today like I am, that'll be $1. And that is it. And again, I would like to thank Myke. That was a very moving, very powerful. And I think I'll fine Roger again for making me try to be Sergeant at Arms after that. It's very difficult.
Thank you, Rick. Wonderful as always, especially on a short timeline, given that we could be cut off at any second. I'm going to move to Martin about the Rotary moment. And Martin, if you want to talk a little bit about the reserve fund, that might be appropriate at this time too.
Okay, Rotary movement first. An estimated 500 million people worldwide were affected. Cities closed theaters and restricted public gatherings. Rotary clubs adjusted their activities while also helping those who were sick. In the United States, the illness was identified in the spring, but the deadliest wave peaked in the fall. Hospitals were so overloaded with patients that schools and other buildings were converted into makeshift hospitals. The disease greatly interfered with club activities and their visits, but not with the spirit of Rotary service. Illness prevailed all around the world, but Rotary clubs continued to serve humanity. Traditional Rotary activities practically ceased for several months, but many Rotarians helped combat the disease by working in hospitals or providing help to families who were afflicted. This is how Rotary responded to the influenza pandemic that began in 1918 and came in 3 significant waves lasting more than a year.
Martin, did you want to talk about the reserve fund?
Sure. So a little group was appointed by the club board and met recently to visit about how we can use this unique time to establish and maintain a reserve fund for the club. And Lauren and I and Mark Harris and Rich Seymour was going to join us, but I don't know, he made some excuse, something about a council meeting or whatever. And I'm kidding. And we and we went through a process to determine what the minimum amount was for our club to continue to exist, to continue to operate for in the event that a significant economic impact comes upon us in one way or another. And we put together a recommendation for the club board. And we also discussed a process to build a relationship between the club board and the foundation board in regard to the funds that have been designated to go to Growing Home, just to kind of set that process back on the right rails. And we don't have, we acknowledge the timing and need to make requests to both the club president and the foundation president to set special meetings to kind of handle these things. I hope to do that no later than next week. Once it's established, we'll inform the membership. And that's all I have to say unless anyone has questions.
Thanks, Martin. And this really tidies up where we are with our emergency funds. I know a lot of questions are coming around that, around the purpose, around how can we use them. So this group has come together to kind of redefine that, because a reserve fund is a fund that would be in reserve should an emergency happen to the club in terms of not being able to meet unmet financial commitments. And that's what this little group is working on in terms of clarifying that language, clarifying the purpose, so we're not stepping on each other and stepping on things in the past. So I think that's well worth the time. There's some more to come on that. Now, our Rotarian of the Week, while we still have power, is Mr. Brian Hall. Brian, can you tell us the story so far in your life?
Sure, sure. Just a quick update. Sue is back to work after a year off when her chiropractor that she worked with for about 13 years retired. So she finally is back working. It's going to be part-time, but right now she's working full-time at Good Samaritan Hospital as a surgery scheduler. So maybe she was the one that postponed your surgery, Mark Harris. I don't know. And then the two girls are doing great. Our oldest in Colorado Springs, she's doing a lot of self-employed photography these days, coming back to her oftentimes to do photo shoots as well as down in Colorado Springs. And her husband works for the city of Colorado Springs, the utility group. They've got a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, both granddaughters that we get to see from time to time. And the younger one is still at Barbara Davis Center doing diabetes research, which is awesome because she's a type 1 diabetic herself. She's an RN, and she's got a 1-year-old grandson that we have the joy of seeing from time to time too. He's a lot closer. So her husband is a mechanic at Transwest and does a lot of work on the family cars too. And I'm still hanging out with the bank doing work from home still, which I'm kind of getting used to. I don't know if I'll go back, but the culture of the bank is to get everybody back in the branches. So anyway, that's kind of it.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you for being a very active member in our club and keeping us all connected during these very disconnected COVIDian times. We do have that need to socially connect. So hopefully some of the future events will work out for us where we can see each other in a different environment. So thank you. I feel like we're living a little bit on borrowed time, so I'm going to rush to Rich Seymour and his thought of the day.
Geez, we blinked there for a minute. I thought we lost it. Direct from the basement of the Early Word Combs, a discussion today. A man laid sprawled across 3 entire seats at a concert. When the usher came by and noticed this, he whispered to the man, "Sorry, sir, but you're only allowed 1 seat." The man didn't budge. The usher became more impatient. "Sir, if you don't get up from there, I'm going to have to call the manager." Once again, the man just muttered and did nothing. The usher marched briskly back up the aisle, and in a moment he returned with the manager. Together, the two of them tried repeatedly to remove the disheveled man, but with no success. Finally, they summoned the police. The officer surveyed the situation briefly, then asked, "All right, buddy, what's your name?" "Fred," the man moaned. "Where are you from, Fred?" asked the police officer. With a terrible strain in his voice and without moving, Fred replied, "The balcony."
Okay, thanks, Mitch. Lauren wants to take a moment to celebrate some folks. Lauren, you want to introduce who you're celebrating?
You bet. Okay, there we go. As you know, we have a program called the H. Michael Hayes Fellowship Award. That program asks for $710 to join, and our latest recipient is Sharon Fuller for the first time. We were able to present that thanks to Mark Harris, who put this plaque together. We were able to present that to her, and I also want to thank recently other multiple H. Michael Hayes Fellow Award winners, Rick, Mark, Tom, and Billy Russell, who Tom knows and is in making this donation in memory of Billy, who is a 60-year Rotarian, along with Ed Moss and Karen Johnson. So congratulations to you all. Thank you for your wonderful support.
Thank you.
Just a note, Billy Russell was my uncle, and he was a 60-year Rotarian in Los Altos, California.
Okay, let's give those folks a round of applause, everybody.
Bravo. Well done.
Well done. And I saw that, well, first of all, let me thank our speakers for being with us again today and our guests. I hope you're able to join us next week as we continue the conversation. I think as we all think deeper about what we all personally need to be doing at this time, and then thinking about what we can do in our community. So thank you so much for being with us. I know Dave had to jump off, so I'm going to call on Kathleen and Bill Fine to lead us in the 4-way test today.
All right, just momentarily. All right.
Which moment? Are the things we think, say, and do first. Is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Hoorah.
Thank you, Bill, and we are adjourned. Great day, everybody.
Nice seeing you, Lou.
You as well.
Have a great week, folks.
With that, we're done. Thank you.